So imagine a child who never had this experience. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I think trauma is easier for us to understand because it's something that happens. It's something that happens to the child. It's something that comes in from the outside. Attachment is something that never forms on the inside. And so I never understood what it felt like to be attached to a mother, ever. And so Mother's Day, oh my goodness, I have Reframing Mother's Day in my second book because I never ever experienced that. And the mother gazes at the baby in her arms, and the baby gazes at his mother's face and finds himself therein. D.W. Winnicott, just a hero. He was beyond his time in understanding this. So some of these kids, they don't want you to look at their eyes. Like you will dysregulate them in one flat second by trying to look at them. And the problem is they're afraid of what they need the very most. They need somebody to look in their eyes. And so I learned, and I don't know how I knew this, but I could control an entire classroom with my eyes. I go to a restaurant and a baby's fussy. It's over. They just stare at me the whole meal, right? The parents are happy, we're all good, and my family's like, come back here with us. And so it is in the eyes. And there's a lot involved in that I include in my book, but it is the soothing relationship. Dysregulation is also the avoidance of feelings. So, of the many roles a mother, this is a quote from my book, of the many roles a mother fulfills, helping her children understand and embrace emotion may be the one mentioned least often. And sadly, most children who are not in nurturing environments, they are punished for showing emotions. And that was my case, and that was why my pain drilled down, until it took me out at 60 because I was not allowed to ever express emotions. I don't think my parents did that. My mother had her own trauma. I'm not, I dedicate Brave to her because I want our story to help others. And so she had her own trauma, but she was never able to be the mother that she needed. This is on I'm on Facebook, and this is just an awesome how to sit with discomfort. And it's just, do you sit with discomfort when you're feeling? Do you just sit down and say, oh, feeling, what are you? Brene Brown talks about that. Oh, let's be curious. What is that feeling down there? I mean, I had to go a long way from wanting to take one of my 3 adults, calling Christina Yang, and have her cut from Grey's Anatomy, have her cut into pieces so I could put her in the dumpster because I wanted to get rid of the feelings. I went to therapy. I told my therapist, I came to you to get rid of these feelings, and you want me to embrace them. This is difficult. So, but it's a really neat chart, and it's available. So, you know how they say the way to tell a dollar bill is to look at the real thing? They say don't look at the counterfeit. You have to study the real thing in order to understand when it isn't there. Okay, to be able to recognize a counterfeit, you have to see the real thing. So, what secure attachment looks like is that a child knows others want to meet their needs. They go into the world thinking people actually want to help them. They feel others have good thoughts about them. They can ask for what they need. They can explore and play independently, and they could correctly read facial cues. Oh my goodness. I can't even say enough about facial cues. I could never listen to directions because I was too busy staring at the teacher's face and looking for when she was going to explode all over me. And so, and can soothe themselves in moments of distress. So I love this picture. It took me forever to find a picture of a mother who was not hovering over her child. We have this cultural idea that the good mother is just, oh, I'm just going to help you walk up these steps. It's going to do everything. I searched through thousands of pictures to find this mother doing self-care on the bench while her independent child was out exploring. Right? That is the picture of attachment. It is not the picture of the hovering mother. And it's also not the picture of the mother on the cell phone, but I'm not going to go there because I was guilty when I was with my grandchildren as anyone. All right, so unmet attachment needs, behavior, and just, I'm still behind. All right, we're going. See my numbers up there? She's timing me because I've seen everybody run out of time before they get to the end of their slides. I'm going to be different. All right. A child, teen, adult who struggles to remain regulated is like an infant who struggles to self-soothe. And this is how an infant communicates. I need something and this is how I communicate. I don't know anything else. I'm just going to cry and get hysterical. And sometimes we see that in the classroom, don't we? So I said, only the body size is different. I threw these weird temper tantrums my whole life. I just got laughing. Okay, my wife is on the floor kicking her feet. Okay, we don't know exactly what to do about this right now. And I understand now I was dysregulating. I was overwhelmed. And so most unmet needs behaviors are normal at some developmental level. I've done pretty well. So there were times, and I had the most incredible therapist because I would come in and I would say, I just can't function at work. I can't. She said, well, because you're kind of processing a 3-year-old right now, and it's really tough for her to go to work, right? And so I would say, oh, and she gave me strategies, which I talk about in Brave, of how to work through that process. And so, but I was being a perfectly normal 3-year-old in that moment. And so a lot of times, and sometimes clinically we call it regression. And that was so shaming to me when I fell on the floor and kicked and screamed. I thought, oh, I had an unmet need and I had never learned to meet my needs in adult ways. So, Maslow's. I've seen this several times this week. So, attachment builds on top of safety, physiological needs. And in other words, that those, so love and belonging, it just isn't going to happen unless those basic needs are met. We all kind of understand that. But the thing I want to point out is that every child is going to have their needs met. It's not a question of whether a child gets their needs met. It's a question of whether they build it on safety or whether they build it out of fear. But they're going to meet their needs, and I'm going to come back and hit that several times because attachment behaviors built on a foundation of unmet needs looks very different. You know what? I am. Okay, so I'm a teacher, and nothing made me more frustrated than everybody came to class and they'd already seen my slides. And they all thought they knew what I was going to say, and they didn't know what I was going to say. And so, I'm sorry. I should have put a note up there to say that, but I'm more than happy to give you my slides, and I should have said that at the beginning. Just a teacher thing. I don't know. So, okay, I thought I turned it. So, this statue in New York, they put it there about the time I was healing. This is Jeannie. Everybody in my family will tell you. They know when I put my hands on my hips, it's game over. I'm pretty determined at that point. And the small child, I had a story where I was in the doorway and I was trying to decide whether to ask my mother for something I needed. And she stopped, but Jeannie stopped looking for my mother as being someone who could meet her needs many, many long years ago. So, how did I get my needs met? I wasn't going to get them. My father was a preacher. He was my hero. He saved my life. I just want to say that. And that's what the research says. You need one person. And I had my father. And that is why I was able to build a functional life on top of so much trauma. So children are not needy. We call children needy all the time. They're not needy. They have unmet needs. And just in that turn of how we describe a child is a world of unshaming, right? I lived in shame my entire life because I was told I was needy, and I drowned in it in the therapy office because I felt so shamed by my neediness, and I wasn't needy. I had unmet needs. So my attachment woundings were pre-verbal and difficult to distinguish from personality. They exhibited as a needy personality, but that was not me. Do you see this person up here? I am so not needy. I mean, when I got to the end of therapy, I'm like, that is so tragic that I lived my life thinking that I was born with a needy personality. But that attachment stuff wires in so early that you really think that's who you are. These kids think that's who they are. Manipulation. Children are not manipulative. They have very correctly decided no one except themselves can meet their needs. And so, but they're still dependent, they're still kids, right? So I know that nobody's gonna meet my needs but me. And so what am I gonna do? I still have to have adults do things. I can't go to the store by myself. I can't get up there in the cabinet and get my food. So I'm going to learn to be manipulative. I'm going to be in control of the adults. And that's how manipulation begins. So the very best manipulators are very clever children. And you've met some of them, haven't you? All of a sudden you stop and you go, wait. And so the day that I saw myself try to manipulate my therapist, which was really ineffective, by the way, but the day I caught myself doing that, I was like, oh my goodness. So this is a skill. Many of the behaviors that we see in children, they're maladaptive, yes, but they are actual skills that they have built to take care of themselves. So this was me about the time the first abuse occurred in a daycare. From a needs-based perspective, manipulation is also the fear of asking. So I was shamed for having needs. I was shamed for asking to have my needs met. And I became a really good manipulator. And I could not ask for anything. My family, they just laugh at me. Because I'm like, wow, that looks really good. I'm so thirsty. That soda looks great. And my daughter says, Mom, do you want soda? Yeah. She said, just ask for it. And I'm like, okay, I could do it. I mean, I didn't even realize that I absolutely could not ask. Because what if I ask and you say, well, that's a stupid thing to ask for? Or what if I'm shamed for asking? So in our family, when I was home for Christmas with my granddaughter, we actually started practicing asking and stopping each other because it's a generational pattern that I built into the whole family, right? I'm like, oh my goodness, he's doing it too, you know? So yeah, so triangulation. We hear a lot about that at ATN. It's a step beyond manipulation. When triangulating, children distance themselves from attaching to the primary caregiver by pitting concerned people against them. How did I discover I was triangulating? When I sat in the therapy office and I tried to diss this man that's taking care of me. I tried to tell her I wasn't safe, right? It was, sorry honey, I did it. Okay, so, and she was confused because she knew that he was the one he was taking care of me. And so we took care of each other for our lot. Why wouldn't he take care of me? So it's a subconscious defense mechanism, and it's easy. I have an addendum in Jeannie's Brave Childhood that talks about how a lot of times people outside of these kids that are very, very, very traumatized, how they will judge and think that you're neglecting them when really you're setting boundaries and you're doing all the things and you're trying to take care of the kids. But they'll go to school and tell the teacher that you never feed them. And so, and it's all defense. It's the way they learn to take care of themselves.